So this weekend from the Nationwide Arena in Columbus, Ohio, UFC Fight Night, Blaydes versus Daukaus, back-to-back weeks, back-to-back fight nights with crowds. Oh my goodness, it's the best. But this weekend, again, 13 fights in this card. Blaydes and Daukaus headline. You might get a fight with David Onama scheduled last second. I don't know. He was supposed to fight Nate Landwehr. Landwehr had to pull out due to an injury, I do believe. So if Onama gets a fight, he'll probably win. The dude's a beast. You saw his fight against Mogli Benitez. He'll probably be taking on a guy on very short notice. So I think Onama will probably win that fight. It'll likely be by early KO finish. But we've got 13 fights on this card. And folks, if you haven't yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more UFC here on the channel. And real quick, looking at last week's card from London. What a night. I mean, my goodness, that was so fun to watch. That's why all fight nights need to have crowds, because stuff like that. I mean, imagine if this card was in the Apex. Tremendous stuff. The card was awesome. I mean, we got Arnold Allen right, we got Tom Aspinall all right, Paul Craig and Paddy the Batty, both by first round submission. We went 10-2. Perfect night for us and a really good night overall for the UFC. But on to Columbus. Our first fight of the night will be Khizriev taking on Dennis Tiuliulin. Both guys making their UFC debuts in this one. For Khizriev, he came off the win on the Contender Series back in 2020. It was a really quick victory over Henrique Shigemoto. Came there, took him down, took the back immediately, submitted him in 50 seconds. It was a really quick win. He was a minus 425 favorite in that fight for a reason. Got the win and got his contract into the UFC. He's been booked 4 times so far in the UFC. None of those fights have happened. First one, Wellington Turman had to withdraw from that fight. Then he was going to go fight Kyle Daukaus, but then Khizriev had to withdraw due to COVID. And then he's going to fight Alessio Chirico, but then Khizriev had to pull out of that fight. And then he's supposed to fight Magomedov on this card in Columbus. Of course, Magomedov pulled out, so now Khizriev is going to be taking on Dennis Tiuliulin. And for Tiuliulin, interesting signing for the UFC. He's 10-5. He's 2-1 in his last 3. Just won a UAE Warriors though back just over a year ago though, back in March of 2021, winning by knockout in the first round. I mean, this fight's pretty simple to break down. It's can Tiuliulin keep this fight standing against a very good grappler in Khizriev? They call him, I mean, the 185 Habib for a reason. Constant pressure on the ground, constant pressure on the feet, through the takedowns and all that. You saw his fight on the Contender against Shigemoto, coming in there, immediately taking him down and getting the submission. I mean, he beat Rusumir Palhares back in Fight Nights Global in 2018. Of course, yeah, that Palhares, the guy who cranked on to submissions and held them for way too long when he's back in the UFC and when he was in World Series of Fighting. Khizriev made quick work of Palhares, finishing him by ground and pound with the TKO finish in 58 seconds. The problem with Khizriev, he just doesn't fight that often. Again, his last fight was in 2020, and before that 2018 when he beat Palhares. But I mean, Tiuliulin's one of these guys, maybe not even entry-level UFC. He's 10-5. He's traded wins and losses before in the past. It's just tough picking this guy against Khizriev. I think Khizriev's going to come in here, immediate takedown, immediate submission. It shouldn't be all that long. We really like Khizriev in this one by first round submission. I would even call it a lock, man. It's a pretty dominant performance here for Khizriev, I think. So I don't think this fight's going to be this low on the card, but if it is, I mean, here it is. Jennifer Maia taking on Manon Fiorot. For Manon Fiorot, I mean, she's been perfect so far in the UFC. She's 3-0 in the promotion. She's supposed to take on Jessica Ai a couple weeks ago in UFC 272. That fight got canceled because Jessica Ai got hurt. So now you get Jennifer Maia here on somewhat short notice. But I mean, for Jennifer Maia, she's ranked 1 in the division, number 4, I do believe. She's ranked number 4 in the division. This is a pretty big step up in competition for Fiorot, but it kind of feels like she's ready for it. I mean, Manon Fiorot, again, she's had 3 fights in the UFC. The first fight was that fight against Victoria Leonardo, where the fight wasn't even close. I mean, pure domination in that fight for Fiorot. Came in there, outstruck Leonardo 53-17. Then she turned that around, just absolutely dominating Tabitha Ricci. Ricci again took that one on short notice as well, but Fiorot just dominated Ricci throughout those 8 minutes the fight did last. And then she took on Mayra Bueno Silva in her last fight, and she beat Silva. I mean, it was just a pretty dominant striking performance for Fiorot. She showed that, hey, she can go in there, she can get takedowns as well against Silva, who isn't horrible on the ground per se. And it was just an all-around good performance for Fiorot, and we saw her for 15 minutes in the UFC for the first time, 30-26 on one card and 30-27 on the other 2. Now, she's taking on Jennifer Maia, the former title challengers, 1-1 after challenging for the belt against Shevchenko, where of course she won a round by landing 1 takedown. And everyone thought, oh wow, she hung in there with Shevchenko. Well, she just won 5 minutes of the fight. Other than that, Shevchenko pretty much dominated her. Maia, after that Shevchenko fight though, she beat Jessica Ai it was a close fight, someone on the feet, but Jennifer Maia barely won on the scorecards. And then she just lost to Katlyn Kuchagian recently in January of 2022 on the Cater and Chikadze card. It was a classic Katlyn Kuchagian performance, just, you know, striking at range, keeping her distance, land a takedown occasionally, and Katlyn Kuchagian, of course, won the fight 30-27 on all 3 cards. So now you get Maia and Fiorot. Then my thing about Jennifer Maia in this fight, if she can't land a takedown on Fiorot, how does she win? And Manon Fiorot is a very tough fighter to take down. I mean, you've seen her fights in the past. She hasn't been taken down so far in the UFC. Leonardo tried, I believe, Ricci tried, and Barberena Silva didn't, but still, Manon Fiorot has been pretty dominant so far in her takedown defense game. Can Jennifer Maia take down Fiorot? I mean, Jennifer Maia herself isn't the greatest takedown expert, really. I mean, she's good at jiu-jitsu, obviously, but she's struggled at actually getting fights to the ground. I mean, you see, okay, like the Shevchenko fight. When she took Shevchenko down, she held her down and she kept her down. But you look at her other fights, right? The reason she didn't, you know, beat Kuchagian is because she couldn't land a takedown. Kuchagian was the superior wrestler in that fight, and Maia just couldn't get her jiu-jitsu going. I mean, I just think it's going to be tough on Maia in this fight because she can't take down Manon Fiorot, and I don't think Fiorot is going to be wanting to take down Maia. So in a stand-up fight, Manon Fiorot is going to dominate Jennifer Maia, and I think she's actually going to get a finish. So I like Jennifer Maia to get finished by Manon Fiorot in this fight. I got Manon Fiorot second round TKO on this one. I think it's a pretty dominant performance, putting her and catapulting her really into title contention. I think if she wins this fight, she probably will get a title shot, considering Tyler Santos getting the next title shot. Valentina needs challengers. If it's not Fiorot next, it's probably Miesha Tate if she beats Lauren Murphy. But yeah, we like Manon Fiorot to beat Jennifer Maia, second round TKO. All right, so next up at 135, we've got Chris Gutierrez taking on Dana Bakary. Should be a fun striking fight. I mean, that's for sure, right? Because Dana Bakary, I say this every time he fights, the guy has power at 135 that's unheard of. Like, the power Dana Bakary really holds at bantamweight, not many guys have. I mean, you've seen his last 3 fights in the UFC, all knockout finishes, all in the first round. Starts off, okay, he lost to Oleinik in his UFC debut. We're not going to talk about that. It was a good fight. It was a fight of the night. It was a fun one. But he comes in, he beats Guido Cannetti, he knocks him out in the first round. Then he knocks out Kevin Natividad. Then he knocks out Brandon Davis, who's making his re-entry, I guess, into the UFC. But in Dana Bakary's last 3 fights, the total fights have been like what? Like 3 fights combined less than 6 minutes. Crazy. I mean, the guy is getting dudes out of there in a hurry. And in a fight with Chris Gutierrez, you know Gutierrez does well. He strikes well. He's a very good striker. And, you know, some of his fights, he has struggled defending takedowns. You look at the Cody Durden fight. That's how Durden made that one close and made it a draw. The Felipe Colares fight, that's how Colares made the fight against Gutierrez close because he was able to close distance at times and get takedowns. But Dana Bakary's not that guy that's going to go shoot a takedown. Dana Bakary, I don't think, shot a takedown yet in the UFC. Why should he? Because the guy's striking so good. Gutierrez wants to keep fights in the feet, and that's what's been kind of holding him back is I guess the lack of ability to stuff the takedown. You saw him like the Borshchev fight when he made his UFC debut, he got taken down and he got subbed. He's not gonna have to worry about that in this fight. And in the draw de Freitas fight, by the way, he got taken down, and that's why the fight was close. The fights that Gutierrez has had close in UFC, it's the loss to Borshchev, it's the split win over de Freitas, it's the majority draw against Durden, and it's the split decision win over Colares. All 3 of those fights, or all 4 of those fights, what they have in common, he got taken down that fight, and he couldn't stuff a takedown, right? I mean, he couldn't get up. So that's not a problem in this fight. Dana Bakary and Chris Gutierrez are going to come in there and they're going to strike, and it should be a fun one. Because Gutierrez, he's got the volume in this one. Obviously, I mean, yes, Gutierrez does have, you know, that one strike power ability. He did that against Morales in their fight back in Vegas in May of 2020. But for Gutierrez in this fight, it's going to be more of the volume that's going to take away and beat Dana Bakary. As for Bakary, I mean, it's one punch trying to get him out of there, right? So 2 different styles in this one. But my thing about Gutierrez in this one is he's going to be forced to strike, and no one in Bakary's last 3 fights has stood there and traded with them. And I just don't think Gutierrez is going to be that guy to beat him. So I like Dana Bakary. I'm riding the hype train right now. I'm a big on Dana Bakary. He's on a run right now, and I think he makes it 4 straight fights with 4 first-round knockouts. We're going with Dana Bakary to come in there, minus 160, hammer that damn thing. I think he beats Chris Gutierrez, first-round knockout. I'd be a little bit concerned if Gutierrez gets out of the first, and especially the second, because then I think that's where he would start to take over. But still, I like Bakary to beat Chris Gutierrez, like him in the first round by KO. So probably the closest fight on this card, one of the closest fights in this card, it's just a weird fight. Luis Saldana taking on Bruno Souza. I mean, both guys have had weird runs so far. I mean, for Souza, it's only been 1 fight. It's the Melzik Bogdasarian loss. He loses by unanimous decision. Bogdasarian just kind of pieces him up throughout the entire fight. Souza attempts a couple takedowns in that fight, just can't land one. So Bogdasarian just outstrikes him, wins a decision, 29-28, wins 2 rounds. Souza only wins 1. For Luis Saldana, he comes in the UFC, huge front kick knockout of Vince Murdoch on the Contender Series. A huge win, gets the contract, turns that into a win over Jordan Griffin on I think that was Holland and Vittoria. Yeah, he wins that one by unanimous decision. Dominant performance in that one for Saldana on the feet. Now on the ground, different story though. Jordan Griffin was able to go to the well multiple times in that fight, land takedowns on Saldana. Again, Saldana won on the feet in that fight. Griffin definitely won on the ground, but still, Saldana barely edged out a decision win 2-1 in that one. And then most recently, he fought on the Cannonier and Gaslam fight card, losing to Austin Lingo. Lingo ended up winning that one at 29-28 on all 3 cards. It was Saldana kind of getting peace in the feet. I mean, Lingo was outstriking him for the most part. Saldana was going to the well a couple times with the takedowns, couldn't land one, went 0-for-5, and Lingo did land a knockdown in that fight as well. So Saldana now 1-1 so far in the UFC. He's taken on his opponent though in Bruno Souza in this fight. And for Souza, the karate background, of course, training with Machitas. And Souza's he's not bad. The former LFA featherweight champion, winning that one before making his way into the UFC, where he lost to Melzik Bagdasaryan. Souza's jiu-jitsu isn't horrible. If he is able to get fights to the ground, he's pretty good down there. But again, it's the striking, it's the karate out of Souza that he really does specialize in. For Souza, though, he's 10-2 so far in his pro career. For Saldana, 15-7. But Saldana's record, again, he lost some fights early in his career. More recently, though, he did go on a 5-fight winning streak, making his way into the UFC, and then, of course, beating Griffin. The thing in this fight for Saldana and Souza is, I don't know who's going to want this fight on the ground. I don't know who's going to want this fight standing, because you know Saldana's got power on the feet. You know Souza, not really much power on the feet, but it's the volume striking that can win him fights. On the ground, I mean, Saldana is not horrible down there. He does have some submission wins. He has been subbed a couple times, though, in the past. And like, I don't know, he tried to take down Lingo 5 times, couldn't get one of them. Souza tried to take down Bagdasaryan 4 times, couldn't get one of them. I just don't know who's the better striker, who's the better jiu-jitsu player here. I would say Souza's better on the ground, but you just don't know. You really honestly just don't know, because Souza before, I mean, he had some fights in LFA against some tough guys, but it's just an interesting fight. It's an interesting fight, really. Ever so slightly, I'm going Luis Saldana. I think Saldana is a slight favorite right now. But again, this one is really split. I do like Saldana ever so slightly here. Again, I know he's got the submissions. I'm just concerned about him going to the ground with Souza, because I know Souza's jiu-jitsu is good. But again, you just don't know. You honestly just don't know. 2 guys who haven't had many fights in the UFC. Saldana's had 2. Souza's had 1. It's, again, just such a tough fight to pick. I'm going to take Luis Saldana by decision. Just honestly, though, don't put any money on this fight. It's a tough one. Fun fight now. We've got Mark Diakiese taking on Slava Borshchev. Really excited for this one, because you look at Slava Borshchev's last fight. I mean, he comes in there, he absolutely beats the brakes off of Dakota Bush. I mean, it's a 3-minute fight, but Slava Borshchev just, working real well on the feet, eventually finishes him with a liver kick. It's a very fun fight for Slava Borshchev's first fight in the UFC, and before that, he beat Chris Duncan on the Contender Series, beating him by KO in the 2nd round. And Slava Borshchev's striking is very good. Now, he's going to be taking on a guy here in the Bone Crusher and Mark Diakiese, who I honestly forgot the fight against Rafael Alves happened. Until I was going over, each individual fighter preparing for this video, I forgot he fought Alves, and I forgot Alves subbed him in a minute. So yeah, nothing really happens until Alves sinks into guillotine and the fight's over. And before that, for Diakiese, I remember the fight against Rafael Khizriev. Khizriev, it's a very fun fight, back and forth in the feet, but Khizriev, of course, wins it by unanimous decision. It wins Fight of the Night on Figueiredo and Benavidez 2 from Fight Island in Abu Dhabi. And before that, for Diakiese, got back-to-back wins, a win over Joe Duffy and a win over Lando Venata before that. But for Diakiese in this one, you're likely going to see him try to stay on Slava Borshchev, because, I mean, honestly, Diakiese's wrestling isn't the greatest. He doesn't usually go down to the ground. Actually, though, when you think about it, though, when he beat Lando Venata, I did use a lot of wrestling in that fight, and then when he did beat Duffy too, he did use his wrestling some as well. But I think he'll probably be standing with Slava Borshchev for at least for most of this fight. Even though Slava Borshchev's takedown defense isn't the greatest. I mean, Chris Duncan did take him down twice in their fight. Slava Borshchev did get back up to his feet. Honestly, though, yeah, you might see Diakiese try to take this one down, because honestly, on the feet, I think this is going to be all Slava Borshchev. I mean, I was really impressed with his performance in the Dakota Bush fight. Now, is Dakota Bush the best UFC fighter? Not at all. I mean, he lost to Austin Hubbard and now Slava Borshchev in his 2nd fight. But the Chris Duncan win's huge for Borshchev. It really is. Duncan's a solid guy who, has picked up wins since that Contender Series loss to Borshchev. Good wins out of Slava Borshchev. The thing with Diakiese is he's just fought so much. He's 29 years old. He's younger than Slava Borshchev which is crazy. But I mean, Diakiese's been in the UFC for a while. He's had 10 pro fights in the UFC. He's had his ups and his downs. The back-to-back losses do suck, and the Alves loss does kind of stick out, considering, I mean, Alves got, couldn't make weight against Sabatini. I lost to his Magulov, and you thought that was going to be a fight where Diakiese could get back on his winning ways, but no, Alves beat him, and I know it was by guillotine, and if Borshchev is going to beat Mark Diakiese, it's not going to be with the guillotine choke. But I think someone's probably going to get knocked out. I know Diakiese hasn't shown the power that he once had at the weight class. We're looking back, before he went on that 3-fight losing streak against Close, Hooker, and Hawkparast. He hasn't got a knockout finish since, 2017? Manoa and Anderson was the main event of that card. But, I mean, I think we're going to see a stand-up fight here. I think Diakiese's always going to have a puncher's chance, but I think this is Slava Borshchev's time. I mean, you saw that win over Hubbard. It was a very good win. He was working the body really well, working his punches as well. I think Slava Borshchev just at this point in his career is better than Mark Diakiese is. I just don't like Diakiese at this point of his career, considering the back-to-back losses and all that. I think Slava Borshchev is going to keep this fight standing, and if he can, it's going to be all him on the feet. I think he's going to be able to take over in this fight. I like Slava Borshchev to beat Mark Diakiese. I think he gets it done in the second round with a TKO finish. So I don't know entirely why this fight's happening. No disrespect to Max Griffin. He's a good fighter, but I just don't understand why he's getting Neil Magny. Especially when you look at Magny's last couple of fights. I mean, just look at his last 5 fights. It's a win over Li Jingliang. It's a win over Anthony Rocco Martin, which, okay, I mean, maybe not on the level of these other guys, but he beat Robbie Lawler by decision. He loses to Michael Chiesa in a main event, and then he beats Jeff Neal. And now we're fighting Max Griffin? Because Max Griffin, okay, so he comes in the UFC, fights Colby Covington, he loses. All right, Colby just beats the brakes off him. It's what you expect in a Colby Covington versus Max Griffin fight. Griffin comes back, he beats Eric Montano, he loses to Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, he beats Spike Perry, loses a couple fights. Eventually, he gets the Ramiz Brahimaj fight when the pandemic starts. He beats him. All right, it's the weird fight or it's not a weird fight. It's just Griffin cuts his ear open basically, and Brahimaj's ear is just being held on with a thread. Then he beats Song Kenan, excuse me, and then he beats Carlos Condit. By the way, the Song Kenan knockout was pretty nice, but he beats Carlos Condit by unanimous decision. I thought Condit was going to win that one. And Condit was on the point of his career where he's, kind of coming back. He beat Court McKee. He beat Matthew Mortal Brown. And you're thinking, okay, maybe he's Max Griffin. Maybe he goes back on a winning streak. Nah, Max Griffin ended up winning that one by unanimous decision. And then since then, of course, Condit has retired. It was a pretty dominant performance for Griffin. He drops Condit in that fight as well. And he just outstruck Carlos throughout that entire one. And Natural Born Killer again at the tail end of his career was his last fight. So good win for Max Griffin. But I just don't know how you go from that to fight Neil Magny. Because unless Max Griffin lands that one bomb and lands that one big shot that turns the lights out against Neil Magny, I don't see how he wins this fight. Neil Magny's been in so many fights in the UFC. He's fought the best of the best. He's only been knocked out twice. It's Santiago Ponzinibbio, and the other one was Lorenz Larkin, I do believe. Yeah, it was Lorenz Larkin back in 2016. He got knocked out. Yeah, Max Griffin's got power, but Neil Magny's such a technically sound striker. I just don't think he's going to get put in too much danger in this fighting against Max Griffin, a guy who, yeah, he'll throw big shots, he'll throw big hooks, he'll throw big overhands, he'll throw some elbows. But again, Magny's just such a long fighter in there. He's got an 80-inch reach. Griffin's got, 75? So a 5-inch reach advantage for Neil Magny in this fight. I think that's going to be huge. He'll be able to keep on the outside, and I just don't know if he's going to be... I don't even know if Max Griffin's going to get the chance to land a big bomb on Neil Magny, just because I think Magny's going to keep his distance so much in this fight. And, I mean, honestly, Magny can go to his takedowns, too, if he needs it. I know he went 2 for 10 in his takedowns against Jeff Neal, but you got to do what you got to do. When he beat Robbie Lawler, it was just dominant wrestling on the ground for Neil Magny. 4 for 7, 9 minutes of control in that fight. If he has to go to the ground against Max Griffin, he can do it. Griffin's takedown defense is okay, though. So I just think we see a striking fight, and I think we see Neil Magny just, 30-27ing Max Griffin. I just don't know if Griffin can close distance. I don't think he can win rounds on the feet against Neil Magny. It's just weird. It's a weird matchmaking. It's just weird matchmaking. That's all it is. Because again, Magny's going from beating a ranked guy in Lawler, fighting in a main event against Chiesa, who's a ranked guy, and then beating Jeff Neal as a ranked guy as well, to prelims on a fight night card against Max Griffin, who's unranked. It just feels like a weird placement, weird, two guys being matched up against each other. I just think it's Neil Magny, 30-27, keeping his distance on the outside, working this fight pretty well. I don't think it's going to be too tough for him. Again, unless he gets hit with the bomb, I don't think he loses. I got Neil Magny by unanimous decision. Griffin can take a punch, and he's lost 7 times in his career by decision. I think he'll be number 8. I like Max Griffin to lose to Neil Magny by decision. The only guy to finish Max Griffin actually in the UFC is Colby Covington at all in his pro career is Colby Covington. I don't think Magny's going to finish him just because that's not really how Magny fights. Last time Magny got a finish in the UFC, it was a win over Craig White over in Liverpool on the Thompson and Till card. And where's Craig White now? Exactly. immediately. So again, Neil Magny by decision, 30-27 all day long. Absolutely love this fight at flyweight. We've got Matheus Nicolau taking on David Dvorak. Should be a good one because David Dvorak, undefeated so far in the UFC, comes in, he beats Bruno Silva by unanimous decision, then he beats Jordan Espinosa, and then they give him Juan Camilo Rondores in his last fight on short notice. He does what he needs to do. Submission, rear naked choke in the first round. Dvorak, again, has been pretty much unstoppable so far in this UFC run. He's been dominating guys, and he's been a lot of fun to watch. Now, he's taken on his opponent, though, in Matheus Nicolau, who Nicolau comes back into the UFC after getting cut, after losing to Justin Ortiz. He builds himself back up, though, fighting in Future and Brave. He wins 2 fights. He gets the shot against Manel Kape, and he beats Kape by split decision. Did he win the fight? Hell no, he did not. Like, rewatch that fight, Manel Kape beats him. But he gets a decision on the scorecards, whatever. And then he comes back after that. He beats Tim Elliott. He beats him in a close fight. Should have Tim Elliott won? It's a close fight. You can give it to Nicolau. I don't have any problems with that scorecard. Okay, so Nicolau now taking on Dvorak. And what does Matheus Nicolau do very well? And what has he done very well in his return to the UFC? Well, he stayed in a fight striking with Manel Kape. And no matter what you think of the scorecard, do you think Nicolau won? Do you think Kape won? Matheus Nicolau kept it close to the feet with Manel Kape, and what has Manel Kape done since the Nicolau fight? He's really turned around so far in the UFC. I mean, Manel Kape's gone crazy since that loss to Nicolau. He came in, he flying kneed Ode Osborne, he knocked out Zhalglas Zumagulov in 4 minutes, and now he's going to take on Sumadarji, and spoiler, I think Manel Kape's going to beat Sumadarji. So Manel Kape's been great striking in his last 2 fights. Nicolau stood there basically for 15 minutes. I know Nicolau did shoot him for a takedown, did land a takedown, but Nicolau basically struck with Manel Kape for the entire fight, didn't get knocked out, and kept it close, which is something that a lot of guys at 125 can't do. So that's the credit you have to give to Matheus Nicolau in that fight against Manel Kape. And then the Tim Elliott fight, more of the same, just mixing it up on the feet against Tim Elliott. Tim Elliott, a guy who just won his last fight. I mean, did anyone think he was going to beat Ulanbekov? I don't think so, but hell, Elliott went in there, beat Habib's guy in Tiger Ulanbekov, and now Elliott's looking good, and Matheus Nicolau just beat that guy. So Nicolau's done very well in the feet so far in his second run in the UFC. His ground game is good. Now, he wasn't able to keep Kape down. He wasn't really able to keep Elliott down as well, but you always know that, I think, and especially in this fight, I think Nicolau's going to have definitely the grappling advantage with him and Dvorak. Because Dvorak, he can get it done on the feet, he can get it done on the ground. Dvorak's a very well-rounded fighter. But Matheus Nicolau's takedown defense, some of the best at 125 you're going to see. 92% takedown defense accuracy rate for Matheus Nicolau. David Dvorak has not landed a takedown so far in the UFC. In the Ronderos fight, fighting up on the mat, and then Dvorak, of course, sunk in that rear naked choke and finished it. I don't think he's gonna be shooting takedowns on Nicolau in this fight. I just don't think that's where Dvorak really wants to go in this one. I think it's going to have to be striking with Nicolau, which should make for an interesting one because we've seen, again, Nicolau is able to compete with some of the best guys in the world on the feet. Kape and Elliott, I know Manel Kape's probably better than Tim Elliott is right now, but still, that just shows you how good Matheus Nicolau is because, again, some judges thought, and some people watching that fight thought he beat Manel Kape on the feet, which is huge. And David Dvorak, again, has been pretty damn good so far in the UFC. I mean, pretty damn good, right? He's undefeated. Again, he hasn't seen the guys at the level that Nicolau is, because say what you want about Nicolau, again, should he be 0-2 in his return to the UFC? Should he be 1-1? Should he be 2-0? He's a top 10 guy. The guys that Dvorak's fight, it's Silva, Espinosa, and Ronderos. Again, not the best guys. I think it's an interesting scrap. I really think it is. I think both guys are going to have their moments in this fight. Ever so slightly, though, I'm going to be taking David Dvorak. I think just the striking out of Dvorak is better than Nicolau. I think you might see Nicolau try to bring this one to the ground, but I think Dvorak should be able to pop back up to his feet. And if not, and if he can, I think you're just going to see a striking fight. I think it's very evenly well matched on the feet, but ever so slightly, I think David Dvorak is better than Matheus Nicolau striking, and that's why we're going to go with Undertaker David Dvorak to win this fight. I think he gets it done by unanimous decision. All right, so next up, we have got Sarah McMann taking on Carol Rosa. Sarah McMann is coming off her fight against the current champion now in Juliana Pena, so maybe if Carol Rosa wins this fight, maybe she'll be the next women's champion. Because yeah, Sarah McMann has not fought since January of 2021, losing to Juliana Pena in the third round by submission. It was a fight where McMann was landing takedowns on Pena and was winning the fight, honestly, until Pena took over in the third round, sinking in that rear naked choke and winning the fight after she took the back. Now, if Sarah McMann beat Juliana Pena there, was she getting a title shot? Probably not. But yeah, it was weird because McMann was the favorite going into that one, and Pena wins, and then Pena beats Amanda Nunes, and here we are, coaching the Ultimate Fighter. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think Juliana Pena beats Amanda Nunes again. I think she does it again. Whenever that fight does happen, I'm assuming the second pay-per-view in July, maybe in August, whenever The Ultimate Fighter ends up airing. But Sarah McMann, you know what she does well. She's a wrestler. Her striking isn't the greatest, but every Sarah McMann fight is kind of the same. It's, can Sarah McMann land a takedown? If she can, all right, she'll have good top control. She'll, land good elbows and land good punches on top. If she can land a takedown again, Sarah McMann's always in a good spot to win. If she can't land a takedown, she's in trouble. So, can Carol Rosa stop the takedowns? I think she probably can, because honestly, you look at Rosa, her 4 fights so far in the UFC. By the way, she's undefeated so far in the UFC. Her first fight against Laura Procopio. Fun fight on the feet, underrated. I mean, both women just kind of traded and exchanged for 15 minutes. Procopio tried to go to the takedown multiple times in that fight, but she was 0-for-5 as Rosa stopped all 5 of those takedowns. And yeah, she outstruck Procopio 171 to 165, landing or, knocking down Procopio in that fight as well. The Vanessa Mello fight, dominant out of Carol Rosa. The fight wasn't all that competitive. You got 30-26s in there. Rosa was dominant on the ground. She's dominant on the feet. The Jocelyn Edwards fight, another big win for her, landing 4 takedowns. A lot of top control time in that fight for Rosa. And the Betch Correia fight was on the feet for the most part. Correia tried to go for takedowns. She couldn't land him, so Rosa kind of just boxed her up for 15 minutes and won the fight. So Carol Rosa has shown her first 4 fights in the UFC that she can either, she can strike with her opponent, she can keep the fight standing, and she can, outbox her opponents, or she's able to go to the takedowns, use her wrestling, and use her jiu-jitsu to win fights as well. That's what makes Carol Rosa somewhat dangerous in this weight class, really. Again, she hasn't lost so far in the UFC. Her last loss comes to Melissa Gatto, a fighter who has come to the UFC and looked very good recently, beating Sijara Eubanks and beating Victoria Leonardo so far in the UFC. And now I believe Gatto is going to be taking on Tracy Cortez at UFC 274. So that's a good fighter as well. But man, Rosa has looked good so far in the UFC. She's coming to the promotion and, done pretty well. Her toughest fight, I think, was the Procopio fight. When you look at it, throughout the fight, she had a tougher time beating Procopio, but that was her first fight in the UFC, and since then she's progressed to really beating down other fighters in this weight class. And I know Betch Correia was at the end of her career when she fought Rosa, and I think Betch Correia is done fighting now. But yeah, Rosa looked good in that one. The Sarah McMann fight, though, again, if Rosa keeps this fight standing, she's going to win. I think on the ground, yeah, pure wrestling, I think McMann's better, but no one's been able to take down Rosa so far in the UFC. Actually, she got taken down once by Jocelyn Edwards, but no one's really been able to dominate Rosa on the ground, so that's going to be tough if you're, on the side of Sarah McMann in this one. Yeah, McMann might be able to land a takedown, but can she keep Rosa down there? I just don't think so. So I think Rosa could be able to use her jiu-jitsu too well effectively, kind of like what Juliana Pena did. I think McMann's 41 years old. She's kind of getting at the end of her career. Rosa's, 28, I think? She's 27, 14 years younger than McMann. I'm just taking the younger fighter in this one. I think Rosa's a lot faster on the feet, obviously, and I think her ground game is better than Sarah McMann's, despite the wrestling disadvantage that Rosa will face. I just think Carol Rosa's just all around better. I think she's going to outwork Sarah McMann throughout the entirety of this fight. I like Carol Rosa to beat Sarah McMann. I think she gets it done by unanimous decision. All right, so this fight, we got Ilir Latifi taking on Alexei Oleinik. It's a heavyweight. It's a weird fight, man. It really is, because Oleinik's so old. He's 43 now? He's 44. Gonna turn 45 in June. And I mean, okay, Oleinik hasn't been good recently. I mean, his last win was Fabricio Verdum, which actually, we got that one right. A lot of people weren't taking Alexei Oleinik to beat Fabricio Verdum. I took him, and he won by split decision. It was at UFC 249 in Jacksonville. After that, for Oleinik, he fights Derek Lewis in the main event. The entire first round, Oleinik's got Lewis down. He's, basically working his Ezekiel choke. He doesn't finish Lewis. Of course, Lewis makes it throughout that first round. In the second round, of course, Derek knocks him out, but then Oleinik takes on Chris Daukaus. After that, he gets knocked out in the first round, and then most recently, he fought Sergey Spivak, and Spivak just kind of dominated him on the feet and on the ground. Even though Oleinik did have his moments on the ground, he did land a takedown in that fight, but of course, Spivak did win. For Ilir Latifi's run at heavyweight, it's been 2 fights so far. Of course, he fought at light heavyweight, fought some of the best guys in the world down there at 205. He fought Ryan Bader, fought OSP, fought Corey Anderson, Volkan Oezdemir, but then he went to heavyweight, took on Derek Lewis at UFC 247, went to Houston and fought Derek Lewis and fought him to a somewhat close fight. I mean, Lewis won 2 rounds to 1. Really, Latifi thinks he won the fight, but I mean, if you go rewatch it, Lewis wins. Latifi only really lands 10 good strikes in that entire fight, given Lewis only lands about 20, but still, Lewis wins by unanimous decision. And then after that, Ilir Latifi fights Tanner Boser. He wins the fight by split decision. It's just Ilir Latifi basically just laying on Tanner Boser for most parts of that fight. He has 7 minutes of control, lands 2 takedowns. Latifi wins. We got that one right. We predicted Latifi by decision, and that's what happened. It's a weird fight though, because you know what Latifi does. Latifi's just trying to, I mean, he's got power, and Latifi will throw big overhand rights, and that's really his only shot to knock anybody out. But for the most part, it's the dominant wrestling that Latifi is going to show. He's going to try to gum in there, close distance, get takedowns, and do all of that. And his takedown defense is really good, so I don't think, okay, if Alexei Oleinik's going to fight, especially at 44 years old, he's got to get the fight to the ground. He's got to work the clinch, he's got it, try to pull off a submission. I don't know how he takes down I don't know how he takes down Latifi. Latifi's never been taken down in the UFC. Like, Corey Anderson tried 5 times, he couldn't take him down. I think Bader tried once, he couldn't do it. I mean, no one's taken this guy down yet. Is Alexei Oleinik gonna be the first one to do it? I don't think so, because Alexei Oleinik, okay, his sambo's good, and he's got a solid ground game, but his wrestling's not the greatest. And this is a guy in Latifi who's got 100% takedown defense rate so far in the UFC. And I mean, despite the fact that, and also Latifi's going to be a lot heavier, I do believe, than Oleinik, I would think. Because, I mean, Latifi comes in at what, like 245? Okay, actually, probably not by much. Because Latifi, I think, is like 245, Oleinik's like 240. So they're about the same weight. I just don't know how Oleinik gets him down. And I just think it'll be a Latifi shooting for takedowns and getting them for most of the fight. And and he might even knock him out too, because Oleinik's shin's gone at 44 years old. I mean, we've seen Lewis and Daukaus knock him out, which, given both those guys are heavy punchers, but Latifi throws hard too, and he doesn't always land all the time. But if he does land, Latifi can knock somebody out. Do I think he's gonna knock out Oleinik? Probably not, because I think he will go back to the wrestling, and I think he will constantly shoot for takedowns. So probably just lay on Oleinik and not take too many chances in this fight. I mean, I know there's gonna be a crowd for this fight, and the crowd might not enjoy the fight style that Latifi's going to fight, but I just don't think he's going to put himself in too much danger here, unless he gets caught with the submission by Oleinik, say like an Ezekiel off bottom that Oleinik will throw up a lot. Unless he does that, I don't think that Latifi's going to lose this fight, especially in Oleinik, who's 44 years old. And I like Alexei Oleinik. I picked Alexei Oleinik to beat Derek Lewis in their main event. I'm a big Oleinik guy, but I just don't think that he can beat Latifi here. I think Latifi's kind of just the game style that can beat Oleinik at this point in Oleinik's career. It's just wrestling, lay and pray, just kind of sit and guard and not get caught in too much trouble. So I think Latifi's going to beat Alexei Oleinik. I think it'll just be a dominant performance on the mat, not allowing Oleinik to get his offense off. And I'm going to go with Latifi to beat Alexei Oleinik. I think he gets it done by decision. Well, here's a fun one at 170. We've got Matt the Immortal Brown taking on Bryan Barberena. I mean, here you go. You want to see some striking, you're going to get it. You got a 41-year-old Matt the Immortal Brown basically fighting at home, taking on Bryan Barberena, who, for Barberena, coming off the win over Darian Weeks by unanimous decision. He beat him originally in December. That's when we were supposed to get Brown versus Barberena, but then, of course, Matt Brown got taken out due to protocol reasons. And here you are in Columbus, Ohio, in front of a crowd. Will it be Matt Brown's last fight? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, he's still doing all right, because you see Matt Brown's last fight, I mean, hell, he just knocked out Diego Lima. And that was pretty nasty. I mean, he knocked him out cold. That was back in the summer. I think it was on Chan Sung Jung and Dan Ige. Huge knockout for Matt Brown, showing that he's still got it, because he was coming off of back-to-back losses to Miguel Baeza. He was a good fighter, good striker, and Carlos Condit, who the natural-born killer again, was kind of making his comeback per se, and Condit fought pretty well against Matt Brown in that fight. But Matt Brown again showed in the Lima fight that he's still got knockout power and he can still put guys away, and that can be concerning for Bryan Barberena, because Barberena gets hit a lot. And yes, Barberena is a classic brawler. He'll get in your face, he'll throw big shots with you, and he's been taken down a lot in his career, and that's kind of what held him back a lot in some of his fights. I mean, hell, even look at the Darian Weeks fight. He got taken down 4 times, even though he still won the fight. Jason Witt took him down 8 times and beat him by majority decision. Anthony Ivy took him down a lot, even though Barberena still won the fight. Leon Edwards, kind of went to the wrestling some in their fight, even though Edwards, beat him on the feet as well. But even though Barberena did knock down Leon Edwards in that fight too, but it was a lot, Edwards, not known for his wrestling. You really had to go to the wrestling well in that fight against Barberena. Matt Brown's not going to be that guy that's going to try to take down Bryan Barberena 8 times like Anthony Ivy did, or like Jason Witt did, right? That's just not how it's going to go. You're going to see Matt Brown stand and strike with Barberena. And Barberena will have a shot to win this fight, because he's going to brawl with Matt Brown. He'll get in his face. He'll throw big strikes at him. My problem with this is, though, Bryan Barberena gets hit a lot. He got hit 118 times against Darian Weeks. Jason Witt hit him a lot. Randy Brown hit him like 90 times. Vicente Luque hit him a lot. I mean, that was a crazy fight in Arizona on the Ngannou and Cain Velasquez card. By the way, free Cain Velasquez. But I mean, Bryan Barberena gets hit a lot, and still, Matt Brown has got power at 41 years old, and if he gets hit a lot by Matt Brown, I just think eventually Matt Brown will put him away. I think it's going to be a crazy good fight on the feet, but still, though, I just think Matt Brown's power is going to play a huge difference in this fight. I mean, we've seen Barberena eat a lot of damage. Eventually, he went down against Vicente Luque. Eventually, he went down against Randy Brown. I know he can stand and trade in the pocket a lot, but I just think at this point in Matt Brown's career, I still think he's got the power to put away Bryan Barberena. I think they're going to exchange in the feet a lot. I think Barberena will put Matt Brown in some trouble on the feet, obviously. I mean, Matt Brown has been rocked recently. You look at the Baeza fight. Baeza gets to him. Cowboy, kind of with a head kick, but still, Matt Brown can get stunned on the feet. I just think Brown's going to get to Barberena before Barberena gets to Brown. I think Matt Brown's going to put away Bryan Barberena. I think it'll be a war on the feet for the first 2 rounds, but I think late in the second round, I think Matthew Immortal Brown will finish Bryan Barberena on the feet. Got Matt Brown then here on Even Money, we're going to be taking Matthew Brown again by second round KO to finish Brian Barberena. This is a great fight at flyweight. It really is. Askarov, Kai Kara-France. The winner of this fight will likely be fighting for a championship next. I would think would be fighting the winner of Figueiredo Moreno 4. I think that's what's happening next. I don't know. And by the way, yeah, I mean, I may or may not have put 2 A's in Kai Kara-France's name on the screen right there. Didn't mean to do that. Didn't realize until about right now. But anyway, Askarov, Kai Kara-France. For Askarov, undefeated so far in the UFC, came in to the promotion with a draw against the current, or actually, yeah, former champion Brandon Moreno. It was a close fight in Mexico. He lost, or it was a split draw. And then after that, he turned around with a win over Tim Elliott by unanimous decision. Then beat Alexandre Pantoja by unanimous decision. That's really the big win for Askarov. I know he did miss weight in that fight, but still, a win over Pantoja is huge. Or actually, no, he didn't miss weight in the Pantoja fight. He missed weight for the Benavidez fight, I think. Yeah, okay. But still, the win over Pantoja is huge, and then he beat Joseph Benavidez most recently by unanimous decision. But given he beat a Benavidez who was kind of halfway out the door, I think, at that point. But still, Askarov beat Benavidez, and I may or may not have picked Joseph Benavidez to win that fight, but Askarov won. He looked good on the feet. He, landed 5 takedowns. He was pretty good all around in that fight. And you know what Askarov does well? He's got pretty good boxing. His takedowns are okay. I mean, they're good, but 20% takedown defense or takedown accuracy so far in the UFC. Again, he landed 5 against Benavidez. Wasn't really able to land much against Pantoja. He landed 2 takedowns, but he was 2 for 15 on his attempts in that fight. And the thing with Kai Kara-France is his opponent, of course. Kai Kara-France got really good takedown defense. He doesn't get taken down too much. I think Boncharin took him down once, but he got pretty much back up to his feet at the end of the first round, of course. Then he knocked out Boncharin, that weird stoppage with Herbadine and all that. But still, Boncharin was able to take him down, but France eventually got back up to his feet. The Brandon Royval fight was a crazy fight, but and both guys exchanged. Royval knocked down Kai Kara-France a couple times in that fight. Kai Kara-France knocked down Brandon Royval, but eventually it was Brandon Royval locking up a guillotine choke, putting away Kai Kara-France. You look at the Garbrandt fight. I mean, Cody's chin is 100% gone, and it's even more gone at 125. But Kai Kara-France was able to do what he's supposed to do in that fight, even though I may or may not have picked Cody Garbrandt to win that fight. Still, though, Kai Kara-France knocked him out. He knocked him down twice in the first round. It was a very fun fight that Kai Kara-France ended up winning. And Kai Kara-France has got power 125 that a lot of guys don't have. He's got more power than Askarov, definitely. And if Kai Kara-France is going to win this fight, he's probably going to rock Askarov in the first round and then maybe put him away early in this fight. But I think as this fight goes on, I think that's where Askarov definitely will see an advantage. But again, Kai Kara-France does not get taken down, and the last guy to take him down was Boncharin, and then before that, he got to go all the way back to his fight in Shenzhen, China against Mark De La Rosa, where De La Rosa did take him down once, but Kai Kara-France's striking was very good in that fight. He knocked down De La Rosa in that one. It's just tough to take this guy down. So I don't know if that's going to be completely open to Askarov. Yeah, I think he's going to try for his takedowns, obviously. Hell, he shot 15 times against Pantoja. Will he be able to land against Kai Kara-France? I don't know. But again, with Askarov if he doesn't succeed in the first one, he's going to try again and again and again and again, and eventually he'll probably find that takedown. So that's what's always concerning about Askarov. He's got a very good gas tank. He's always in the fight. I know he did begin to tire a little bit in the Pantoja fight, but still, he looked pretty solid in that fight. And I just think all around, if Askarov is able to keep his game going and, continue to work his boxing and eventually going back to the takedowns and the constant pressure that is bringing against Kai Kara-France, and as long as he doesn't get caught in the first round, Askarov should be able to win. There's a reason he's a -310 favorite in this one, especially against a guy who just, knocked out a former world champion, Cody Garbrandt, on a pay-per-view main card in his last fight. I mean, the bookies obviously respect Askarov a lot. I think he'll probably beat Kai Kara-France. I think it'll be a fun fight because I think Kai Kara-France will offer a lot in that first round. I think he'll definitely go for it in the first round, but I think Askarov will be able to weather the storm. He'll stay in the fight. He'll keep this fight, he'll keep the fight in the way that he wants to keep it, whether it be on the ground or on the feet. I like Askarov to beat Kai Kara-France. I think he gets it done by unanimous decision. Probably a title shot next for him with wins over Kai Kara-France and Pantoja, and even Joseph Benavidez as well. Going Kai Kara-France to lose to Askarov by unanimous decision. Co-main event time, we have got Joanne Wood taking on Alexa Grasso. And for Joanne Wood, it has been tough since she, had the title shot against Valentina Shevchenko, didn't end up getting it. She fought Jennifer Maia to try to, she wanted to fight before she fought Valentina. She ended up losing that fight. She lost by armbar. Not good. So then she beat Jessica I, which is all right. She kind of stood on the feet with I and just kind of brawled with her and beat her. All right, cool. You get the Lauren Murphy fight. You beat Lauren Murphy. You get the title shot. Okay, Lauren Murphy gets really lucky with the decision that Joanne Wood definitely should have won. But Murphy, on her run of really lucky decision wins, the Andrea Lee win and the the JoJo Wood fight. Murphy gets the title shot. She gets beat up by Valentina Shevchenko. And now here we are. Or actually, no. And then Joanne Wood fought Taila Santos. And my goodness, that fight was not competitive. Taila Santos just ran right through her, knocked her down twice, eventually finished her with a rear naked choke. Yeah, I mean, dominant performance for Taila Santos. That's how she got her title shot. And now, Joanne Wood, you know, she lost to Jennifer Maia. Maia got a title shot. She lost to Lauren Murphy. Murphy got a title shot. She lost to Taila Santos. Santos got a title shot. So if she won any of those 3 fights, she would have got a title shot. Sucks. So now she's taking on Alexa Grasso, and I don't think if Joanne Wood wins this fight, she's getting a title shot next, just because she's number 7 now. If Alexa Grasso wins, honestly, with the amount of contenders the lack of contenders we have at 125, she might get a title shot next, but I said this earlier when we were talking about Manon Fiorot and Jennifer Maia. It'll probably be Miesha Tate next. I think Miesha Tate's probably going to get the title shot next, assuming that she beats, she's fighting Laura Murphy. So, again, I think Miesha Tate will win that fight. If she doesn't, then maybe you look at, I don't know, the winner of Grasso and Fiorot. If Grasso wins this fight, I don't know, but I don't think they do that. Anyways, back to this fight, though. Joanne Wood, she didn't look good in the Santos fight because Santos has got a lot of power at 125. Her striking's really good, and Wood just couldn't really catch up to the power that Santos did throw. The Lauren Murphy fight, again, I don't know how Lauren Murphy won that fight. I mean, I get it, she got a takedown, but like, I mean, my goodness. I know she won round 2, but you look at rounds 1 and 3, rewatch the fight. How does Joanne Wood not win rounds 1 and 3 in that fight? And you know what Wood does well. She'll strike very well, but Alexa Grasso might have some of the best boxing at 125, and we haven't seen Grasso against the type of style of fighter that JoJo Wood is. But I mean, we've seen her against some good strikers in Ji Yeon Kim and Macy Barber. Macy Barber kind of just throws big Hail Mary shots to try to put away her opponents. Alexa Grasso does stay very straight in her strikes. But I mean, Grasso weathered the storm with Barber. She didn't get put away. She, outboxed Macy Barber basically for 3 rounds, forcing Barber to shoot for takedowns to try to drag the fight down to the mat. And you look at Grasso's fighting against Carla Esparza, you can definitely make the case that Alex Grasso beats Carla Esparza in that fight. She put it on Karolina Kowalkiewicz back in Chicago in June of 2019. Grasso's a very talented fighter, and she's not gonna have to worry about a takedown in this fight. Same can be said about JoJo Wood, though. Wood's not gonna have to worry about a takedown because that's always been what's stopped Joanne Wood from fighting at the top of this weight class. She got taken down a lot by she got taken down by Jennifer Maia and then subbed. Or actually, did Wood go for the takedown in that fight? All I know, she got subbed in the fight against Maia. Lauren Murphy took her down. Basically, that was the fight that just kind of decided the fight was round 2. That was the one that Murphy did bank. It's not going to be a problem in this fight for Joanne Wood. It's just going to be the striking. But again, you look at Wood's fight against Taila Santos, and then she basically just got beat on the feet in that fight. She got outpowered, and she couldn't really do anything against Taila Santos. And that's concerning because you're taking on Alexa Grasso, a fighter that's basically going to want to do the same exact thing. The thing is, Grasso doesn't have the power Santos has got, but still, you get what I mean. Grasso's a very good striker, and she's going to be there for all 15 minutes in the fight, and she's going to be in Joanne Wood's face for 15 minutes. The thing about Wood, though, she's kind of willing to fight that style of fight. It's going to be a brawl. I think it's going to be a good fight. There's a chance this wins fight of the night because the style of fight that Wood fights and the style of fight that Grasso fights. Again, though, I think Grasso might pick her spots a little bit more and better than Joanne Wood because Wood, again, just throws a lot of strikes. It's the volume out of Joanne Wood that she's going to try to beat you with. You look at the Jessica Ai fight. You look at basically the Lauren Murphy fight as well. I mean, I think we see the judges definitely in this one. It's a tough fight to pick, but then again, it's really not. I think Alexa Grasso is just going to beat Joanne Wood. It's tough. I think Joanne Wood's kind of at the tail end of her career. Yeah, again, she beat Jessica Ai, but the Murphy fight, again, I thought she won. But the fight that I keep going back to is the Taila Santos fight. She didn't look good in the Taila Santos fight, and I don't think Taila Santos is the greatest. Like, I think she's good. I think she's worthy of being in the top 5, but Joanne Wood from 2 years ago probably would have beat Taila Santos. And now Santos is getting a title shot. Valentino probably melts her in the first round. I think Grasso is going to beat Joanne Wood. I think she gets it done by decision. I think it'll just be a dominant boxing performance out of the Mexican fighter in Alexa Grasso. Really putting her spot now, or really, I hate to say it, but using or building her name off of Joanne Wood's. I think Grasso is going to pick up the biggest win of her career. She'll get it done by unanimous decision, a pretty dominant 30-27 out of Grasso. I just think she's quicker on the feet. I think she's faster than Joanne Wood at this point in Wood's career, and that's why we're going with Alexa Grasso to beat Joanne Wood. She's going to get it done by unanimous decision. Main event time, we've got Curtis Razor Blaydes taking on Chris Daukaus. Daukaus back in the main event spotlight. Yeah, so he lost his last main event, or his first main event, against Derek Lewis. It was his last fight. And yeah, it was kind of a levels fight because it showed that, okay, Lewis still got it. Definitely. He put away Chris Daukaus about 3 minutes into that fight. I mean, it's what Derek Lewis is always going to have. Derek Lewis is always going to have power. And we thought in that fight, okay, if Daukaus can get out the first round and work his volume, and eventually maybe he'll be able to put away Derek Lewis in the later rounds of that fight. Or honestly, I think I said the second round of that fight. But still, though, I thought Daukaus was eventually going to, work his volume and eventually put him away. Not in the first round, but later on. Didn't happen. Derek Lewis put down Chris Daukaus pretty early in that fight, and Chris Daukaus isn't one of those guys who's going to put you away with one punch. I mean, it's going to take a while for Chris Daukaus. He's not one of these heavyweights like a Derek Lewis, like a Tai Tuivasa, like a Francis Ngannou, like a Jairzinho Rozenstruik that only needs one shot to put away the fight. I mean, obviously he's capable of doing so, but it's going to take a little more. It's going to take like a a blitz of punches, or like the Alexei Oleinik fight where you kind of hit him with like a 20-punch combo and eventually put him down. It's not just going to be Daukaus is waiting, praying, and then he's going to throw the big uppercut like Lewis against Curtis Blaydes and put down Curtis Blaydes. It's not going to go that way. So that's one thing that is a little bit concerning for Chris Daukaus, is that he's going to need some time in this fight to beat Curtis Blaydes. I think he's going to need time, and it's not just going to be, all right, he's going to throw a big overhand right and put away Curtis Blaydes like Derek Lewis did. I know Lewis threw an uppercut, but still, I don't think it's going to be like that style of fight where he pops back up to his feet, big shot, puts away Blaydes. That's one thing. I think Daukaus is going to need some time in this fight. We haven't seen Chris Daukaus against the type of wrestler that Curtis Blaydes is. And I know Daukaus has not been taken down so far in the UFC. The thing is, I don't think anyone's attempted to take him down. Like, I think Oleinik did. I know Nascimento didn't, and Parker Porter didn't as well. So yeah, Alexei Oleinik was the only guy to try to take down Curtis Blaydes. And we talked about Alexei Oleinik earlier when we were talking about him and Latifi. Yeah, Alexei Oleinik's takedowns aren't the greatest, and Daukaus stuffed it and kept it on the feet and knocked him out in about, 2 minutes. Curtis Blaydes is a problem for everyone in this weight class. Say what you want. 1 through 15, Curtis Blaydes is a problem. And I know, okay, striking isn't the greatest, but Curtis Blaydes offers something that a lot of these guys at this weight class don't, and it's wrestling. And no matter if Daukaus beat Derek Lewis or, if he beat Derek Lewis or he didn't, even if he beat Derek Lewis, this fight's still a problem for him. It's because Curtis Blaydes is such a good wrestler, and Curtis Blaydes will always be going for takedowns. You saw the Biggie Boy fight, the Jairzinho Rozenstruik fight. It's Curtis Blaydes consistently and constantly going for takedowns, and he kept landing them against Biggie Boy. And I know, I think one judge might give him, no, all 3 judges gave Curtis Blaydes every single round in that fight. Yeah, it was boxing until he was boxing with Biggie Boy until he wasn't, because then of course he went back to the takedowns and kept bringing down Rozenstruik down to the mat. He's a problem for everyone in the weight class. He really is, because you saw what he did to Volkov. He landed 14 takedowns on him. JDS didn't even need the takedowns. He just kind of knocked out JDS in the second round. By the way, JDS is going to fight Yorgande Castro coming up in a couple months. Okay. You saw Curtis Blaydes' dominant wrestling performance against Shamil Abdurakhimov, and the same can be said when he beat Justin Willis. Again, Blaydes is a problem for all of these guys. You look at even Cyril Gane. I think very highly of Gane, but I think Blaydes would be a problem for him because of the takedowns. Even if he fought Derek Lewis again, I know we picked Derek Lewis to win by Hail Mary knockout, and that's basically what happened. But again, Blaydes will always be a problem because of his constant wrestling and his pressure on the feet and on the ground. I just think this is very tough for Chris Daukaus. And again, it didn't matter if he beat Lewis or not, because the Lewis fight does not apply to this fight at all, because it's simple. If Daukaus can keep this fight on the feet, I think he can probably win, even though Blaydes' striking isn't horrible. I think Blaydes can, kind of contest and can compete with Daukaus on the feet. But if Daukaus can't stuff a takedown against Chris Blaydes, he's just going to get ragdolled for 5 rounds. And maybe Blaydes will put him away eventually, like he did to Abdurakhimov on the ground. But if not, I think Blaydes will just kind of lay on Daukaus for 5 rounds. The crowd in Columbus probably won't like it all that much, but I think it's a very possible outcome in this fight. I truly think it is. That's just Curtis Blaydes takedowns, and the more takedowns. Because even though he got knocked out by Derek Lewis, he's still shown the Biggie Boy fight that he can still go. The fight, sure, the Lewis knockout happened, but he's still one of the best wrestlers in the heavyweight division. He probably still is the best wrestler in the heavyweight division. He's still got some of the, he's still one of the best guys in the world at this weight class. It's not the most entertaining fight style, and it's not the fight style we all want to see, per se, because Blaydes isn't, Blaydes isn't the most entertaining. He's not. But nonetheless, I think he's still going to do the job against Chris Daukaus here. I don't think it's a very, exciting way to finish the card like Aspinall and Volkov was just a couple nights ago, but there's a reason this guy's a minus 335 favorite. The matchmaking on this does not make all that much sense. But again, there's a reason Daukaus is a plus 260 and Blaydes a minus 335. This is going to be dominant out of Curtis Blaydes. It's going to be multiple takedowns. Like, you're going to see like 10 plus takedowns out of Curtis Blaydes in this fight if Daukaus is able to get back up to his feet. I got Chris Daukaus 50-45 in this one. I think Daukaus needs time on the feet to knock out Curtis Blaydes, and I don't think he's going to get all that much time on the feet because I think Curtis Blaydes will be, will really be aggressive trying to get this fight in the ground. I think he will be able to. So we got Curtis Blaydes to beat Chris Daukaus. I think he gets it done by unanimous decision, 50-45. Where do you go with Curtis Blaydes after this fight? Honestly, Cyril Gane maybe, because this heavyweight weight class is interesting because you got, Aspinall coming off a win over Volkov. In a perfect world, Ngannou's, just got surgery for his ACL. That's cool. Perfect world, Stipe fights John Jones for the interim championship. Then you do Tuivasa and Aspinall, and then it just kind of leaves Cyril Gane. So then you do Gane and Blaydes, right? And then, then you got Rozenstruik fighting Tabora. Then it just leaves you Lewis, Volkov, and Daukaus. Lewis and Volkov fight again, I guess. And then Daukaus fights like Augusto Sakai next, because it's the fight that Daukaus can win. Like, I feel good about that, and that's how you really basically match up the heavyweight division if I'm booking it. But yeah, I think Blaydes wins, probably moves on to a fight against Tiuliulin next, which maybe he'd win, because honestly, Blaydes has a fight style to beat Tiuliulin if he can and is able to get the fight on the ground. But again, we're going with Curtis Blaydes to win here in the main event of UFC Columbus. And folks, that'll do it again for our Fight Night preview and predictions video here with Curtis Blaydes and Chris Daukaus in the main event. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Give a like, see out for watching, and Mamba forever.